Rachel, can you hear us?
Why is mine so dark? My what did you do with yours? How did you make yours? Eugene.
Taffi.
Rachel, can you hear us? Hi, Rachel. We're just waiting for Rachel to join, and then we can kick off. She's trying to connect.
Okay.
Taffi, the reason we can't see you is because the light, you're facing in the wrong direction of the light.
Right. So if I do that,
the light needs to be hitting your face. So if the window is behind you, then you need to be facing the window.
Oh, I need to be facing the window. Okay.
But that means we might see other aspects of your house that you probably didn't want us to see. So, tough choices.
Hi, Rachel. Are you online? I think. Rachel, can you hear us?
Right, that doesn't help.
I suggest you crack on and Rachel will join us.
Yes, okay. I think in the interest of time. Thank you, everyone. Someone is making noise. Let me try and see. So thank you, everyone, and welcome to our webcast tonight on coronavirus implication on UK immigration laws. Just a few things in terms of housekeeping. Please try to mute your speakers just to stop disruption. So we're expecting quite a lot of people, over 30 people signed up, and we are live both on Zoom and Facebook and on YouTube. So to kick off the discussion in terms of our agenda today, I'm just going to take you through in terms of what's One Africa, to talk about One Africa and the agenda, and then we'll kick off with the discussion, followed by Q&A. So in terms of One Africa, for those who don't know about One Africa is the leading network for African professionals, entrepreneurs, and business leader within the Midland. So we are committed to advancing entrepreneurship, innovation, business excellence, inclusiveness, and sustainable economic growth. Our vision, of course, is to connect people, ideas, opportunities for growth, enhance potential and participation of African and Black communities and professionals across the UK, including sharing best practice and latest update to make us improve what we do and how we do things through connection, inspiring people, empower, and of course celebrating our achievement and success. So how we engage people, we normally engage our members and participants through various channels, including inspiration discussion series, networking discussion, doing business forum, and the other things that we plan to host over the coming month and the years to come. So over the last few years, since we were launched, we've hosted several speakers and experts from various industries and professionals and careers to come and share their career background, ideas, and the experience to inspire us also to empower others to become more competitive in the economy. So we host a series of, over the last month, we've hosted a series of events, including discussion panel, networking on various topics. So these are some of the things we've been doing over the last 2 years since we were launched, for those who are not aware. And these are also some of the activity we do in terms of networking or providing the platform for professionals and business leaders to connect and also share ideas, inspire each other, and also strengthen relationship. So, and in the coming month, we have a series of webcasts, and we will encourage people to sign up and be part of the discussion. So, of course, coronavirus is on the top of everybody agenda, including business, the economy, the government, and individual, and of course has impacted us in many ways. And that's why we've already shifted online, and now we are joining ourselves on the internet. So I would encourage to please sign up for future programs. So these are some of the programs in the pipeline. Of course, we are reviewing as we go along and also looking at the situation, how it evolved. But over the next 1 month, we got quite a lot of online discussion of panels weekly on various topics. So in terms of today, our topic today is on implication of coronavirus on UK immigration rules and cases. Of course, you've seen quite a lot major headline in the last few weeks. On every day, we see a lot of announcement from, of course, from the top. Coronavirus has been a tragedy, a tragedy, of course, affecting so many human life across the globe. We're seeing quite a lot of evolving situation impacting various people and having a major implication, including lockdown on many countries, restriction on movement, global market disruption and supply chain, and many businesses currently struggling to survive and existing, and we've seen cancellation of many activity. Recession, of course, is depending who you speak to, either we are in a recession or the recession is guaranteed. Of course, recovery, we don't know how the future look like. Majority of the businesses or individual, we're only looking for the next 30 days or 60 days, and then the future we'll see. Policy making, of course, has changed at many government and company levels, including the government. We're seeing a shift in various policy and strategies, and including, of course, home office, which we are going to hope to hear from our speaker in terms of some of the latest announcement on migration laws and things like that, impacting several people for those applying for citizenship, visa extension, on various things, and including, of course, family reunion, travel, or if you're on lockdown, or employee sponsoring employers and things like that. So, and also we've seen a lot in terms of stock market plunging and public anxiety resulting in various things such as panic shopping, mass home working, and of course home online or digital economy is growing very fast as everyone now working from home. So quite a lot of things going on at the moment, and of course government at the top of everything, and we've seen quite a lot of pressure on government services, including NHS and other services. So these are some of the headlines we're seeing day to day, and of course every day is different. We're seeing new announcement. And for today's agenda, in terms of the structure, we're going to have a discussion on 40 minutes. So our speakers will take us through some of the latest government updates. We look at in terms of visa extension, relaxation on a new nationality tier 2 and tier 5, including tier 4 visas, overstaying, what are the implications, outstanding cases, reviews and delays from home office. And for those who are still waiting for decision in terms of visa or citizenship or illegal, whatever you call it, how do you access healthcare and benefit if you are sick or you are under isolation and things like that. So to kick off the discussion on the line, we have Lecho. I'm sure, Lecho, did you manage to join? Lecho? Okay, so we have Taffi. Taffi, are you on the line?
I'm on the line. Hi, how are you, Eugene?
Welcome, Taffi. And we have Andrew on the line also.
Hello, Eugene and everyone. How are you?
Not too bad. I think probably maybe Rachel she's in the process of joining. I did saw her online, but probably will continue the discussion and then she can join. So just to kick off the discussion, I'll welcome the speakers. Probably we start with Taffi to introduce himself and take us through what he does in terms of law practicing and how he, in terms of the coronavirus has disrupted his work and how he sees, he take us through some of these topics in terms of how he's seeing the changes in terms of immigration laws as a result of coronavirus. And then from that, Andrew will take over the stage, also take us through the same. So after the discussion, then we'll have a Q&A. If you have a question, please post it, and then I will look at through them, and then we can answer them as we accordingly. So I think I've helped me to welcome Taffi to join us and share his perspective.
Well, thanks, Eugene. Okay, so as you've mentioned there, I'm Taffi Nyawanza. I'm a solicitor. I'm a senior associate with Axiom Stone Solicitors in Birmingham, and I've been doing immigration for the past, 15 years or so, I think. Time flies. So I deal mainly with, increasingly now business immigration, but I do the whole range of immigration. So personal immigration, EU law, asylum, deportation, you name it, anything to do with immigration, I do. I do other things as well, but I do tend to focus a lot more on immigration. So that's me by way of introduction. I'm currently working from home because of social isolation, or rather social distancing. Work continues as normal, so I'm taking instructions, I'm advancing clients' cases, I equipped and set up to do work from home, so that is continuing. But ordinarily, all things being equal, my office would be Birmingham City Center. So hopefully once all this is over and done with, we can resume a normal service. But let me perhaps just start by putting today's discussion in the context of something called the hostile environment, which I think is very critical. So around about 2012, the then Secretary of State for the Home Department, Theresa May, introduced something called the Hostile Environment Policy. So in essence, it was meant to make life very difficult across the board for immigrants, or rather for unregulated immigrants. So these would be your overstayers, or as they are called sometimes, illegal immigrants, although that word is technically incorrect. But she introduced this policy. The idea was to make life very tough, so that they would self-remove, they would want to leave the United Kingdom. So there were a number of areas that it touched on. So things like, for instance, no access to the NHS, the closing of bank accounts, for people that didn't have stay, the right to work checks, which we'll discuss shortly, and then the removal of appeal rights, the increase of application fees. So a whole range of all these policy decisions came in. And now, as I've said, this was meant to make life very difficult for people to live in the United Kingdom without paperwork. And one of the areas, as I've mentioned, was access to healthcare, access to GPs, access to the NHS. Now, when we talk about access to healthcare in the United Kingdom, we talk about it in two aspects. There's something called primary care, and then there's something called secondary care. Primary care would be your GP, and then secondary care would be obviously, the referral hospitals, A&E, and so on. Now, The position has always been that primary care was free. You could go and see the GP, but secondary care was something that you would need to pay for if you didn't have or papers for the United Kingdom. So there is something called the NHS charges to overseas visitors regulations, which regulates this. So it lays down the law and says these are the people who have got access to healthcare in the United Kingdom. You know, obviously, the starting position is that the NHS is free at the point of delivery for people that are ordinarily resident in the United Kingdom. So there's that phrase, ordinarily resident. It refers to people with the correct paperwork. But for those without, obviously, it's chargeable if it's secondary care we are talking about. Now, COVID-19 comes in, and of course, it affects everybody, whether you've got papers or you don't have papers, everyone is affected. But what's happened, of course, is that you have a lot of, irregular immigrants who are out there, and over the years, they've learned to live underground, as it were. Now, there was a letter written by the leading charities in this sector, this space to the Home Office to say, look, if you don't make provision for these people, the impact will not just be to themselves, but it will affect everybody. Because if you've got pockets of people battling with COVID-19 who cannot access healthcare, then you're going to have a problem. Of controlling this. So in response to that, the Home Office has lifted that bar to access secondary healthcare. So the regulations provide in Schedule 1 for certain conditions which you can go to the NHS for. So for instance, if you've got an STI, it doesn't matter, you don't have papers, you can go in, to the NHS. Or if you've got, certain of these conditions which are regarded as contagious, COVID-19 has been added to that. So that is, in a way, good news. It's I suppose, a dent on that hostile environment policy. It's opened a door for those people to access healthcare. So that's one area which I wanted to touch on. There are others which I suppose I will maybe expand on. For instance, because of social distancing, the courts are closed. The Home Office is closed for fresh submissions. Even overseas visa centers are closed. A lot of these places are just closed at the moment. So, there's a big impact, obviously, but I just wanted to start by focusing on that one area. And I suppose finally, I will just mention another policy which has just been announced by the Home Office, which relates to people that work in the NHS, immigrants that work in the NHS, frontline healthcare providers, so nurses, doctors, paramedics, and so on. So the announcement is that there's an extension of their visas, automatic extension by a year, by 1 year, free of charge. And I think that is very useful. Although personally I would have wanted to see, them go a bit further than that, maybe announce that they will grant, persons that are working for the NHS settlement, automatically. And by way of comparison, of course, if you look at what Portugal has done in terms of, maybe just opening up that space, I think there is a bit more that could be done. So that would be my contribution for now. Happy to come back and expand on a few of those issues as we go along.
Thank you so much, Taffi, for that brief introduction and sharing your insight and some of the latest update and adjustment from the government in terms of the immigration laws and rules and cases outstanding and things like that. I'll probably now go straight to Andrew also to share, to introduce himself and also shed some light in terms of what he does, what kind of law practice he focus on, and how he sees the current situation is changing, impacting the legal industry, and of course for his clients and the community at all. What are the implications and what are the latest update and the key things to consider moving forward? So Andrew, welcome, and the stage is all yours.
Thank you so much, Eugene. My name is Andrew Nyamayaro. I'm the principal solicitor of Tann Law Solicitors. We are a firm of solicitors who are based in Coventry City Center, and we do quite a number of areas of law, one of them being immigration. So we do immigration, employment, family law, civil litigation, and things like drafting wills. That we are also commissioners of odds. I'm a solicitor here in the UK, and I'm also admitted in Zimbabwe as a legal practitioner. So that's about us as a firm. So to the topic that we have, I've got a few points that I need to go through in terms of immigration. The immigration, some of the points Taffi has already touched on them, so I might not really need to go through them and repeat them, but I will just point a few ones. So one which I want to touch on is what is called further submissions or fresh claim. This is a situation whereby someone is yet an asylum claim refused and they've got new or fresh evidence which they want to submit to the Home Office. So the usual procedure is that someone has to go to Liverpool to submit their fresh claim or further submissions, but the Home Office is actually suspended that. So all further submissions are now being done either by way of an email. The Home Office has got set up a particular email address to send the further submissions, or you can send the further submissions to the Home Office by way of post. But I'm made to understand that the Home Office is, like another person or department, reluctant to receive post for fear of coronavirus, COVID-19. So mostly it will be by way of emails. That's what we are doing for our clients. And in light of that as well, the Home Office normally requires people who not on some form of leave to remain in the UK, who are on immigration bail, to report either weekly or monthly or whatever time they've set up. But they've also sent a text almost to everyone whom they've got their phone numbers, suspending any reporting. So if there's someone who is required to report and is not received a text from the Home Office, the chances are that you are not required to report to the Home Office until further notice. I've also dealt with a case recently of someone who was in transit from the United States to an African country, but they got stuck at Heathrow Airport. We have tried to communicate with the Home Office, but the Home Office have set up a guidance, an immigration guidance on coronavirus for people who are here as visitors and people who are here on transit. There's an email which they have set up, and they've also a phone number which they have. And in the guidance, people who are on transit can have their transit extended by 30 days, I think, up to should be 30 days, I believe. I've tried to contact the Home Office on that number. Believe you me, at one time I had to wait for 45 minutes. It's that number never goes through. The emails never replied to, but I think it's just important just to write to them to notify them that you are in transit and you are stuck in the UK, for anyone who is stuck in the UK because they cannot go to the forwarding country because of any restrictions or lockdowns in the country which they are visiting. One issue that I have had to deal with because of the coronavirus situation is, as you would know, the Home Office has put out what is, or rather the government has put out what is called the job retention scheme, whereby 80% of the employees who have been put on furlough leave. Furlough leave means that someone who should have been made redundant is being kept by the company on a salary because the company has got future use for that employee. So instead of the company paying from its own coffers, the government is guaranteeing and paying 80% of the employee's salary. So the question that I'm receiving from some employers is that, is this regarded as public funds? Because most of the employees who might be furloughed are from the tier 2 or tier 5, or have got at the back of their biometric card written no recourse to public funds. So I don't believe that this will be classified as public funds, and in any event, it's not coming direct to the employee, it's going to the employer. So I don't believe that there will be a breach of immigration rules if the employer is to apply for funds under the job retention scheme. I hope that makes sense. And one question that I've also received from some clients who are business clients is that, can we put on furlough leave clients or employees who are on a tier 2 visa? Does that breach their conditions of their visa? Again, I believe that that will not breach their visa because they still remain employees even for the period that they are on that furlough leave. So if a company is struggling, they can put the tier 2 or tier 5 or whatever international employee they have on the leave, and then the person can then resume with their employment at the relevant time when the company can be able to work productively. Okay, so one of the other points that I want to point it at the moment is that we all know that at this time most people are affected financially, and some of the clients that oh, there's someone making noise there. Some of the clients are a family of 3, 4, 5 people, and now they are not going to work, or if they are on leave, forced leave, whereby maybe it's unpaid leave, and they are now on statutory pay leave, which is £95 per week, and they cannot afford home office fees. Subject to qualification, you might apply for what is called the fee waiver. You can then have to prove that you cannot pay for the fees because you've been forced to go on statutory pay, or you've been going on for the reasons of that you've got coronavirus, or you're caring for someone with coronavirus, or self-isolation and things like that. So you might, subject to qualification, apply for a fee waiver. At our company, we do have what is called legal aid. So some other people who cannot afford the fees for solicitors' fees, for example, again, subject to qualification, can also have their cases considered under legal aid, either normal legal aid or under exceptional funding. So if struggling financially, then there could be that route that is available. Again, I need to just point out on the fact that most of the, not most really, but all appointments with the Home Office have been suspended for, because the new system now that is there is that you do your online application, and after you do your online application, you have to submit your original documents to a center, a Home Office center, which is managed by a company called Soprasteria. most of those centers have been closed until further notice. All of the appointments are being put further until further notice. So the query that I'm getting from clients is it the application that is suspended, or it is the submission in person? The application has to be done in time. So if your visa is going to expire, you have to, if you can and you should, really, unless if there's exceptional circumstances, submit your application in time. Although you might not be able to get an appointment, but at least before the expiration of your visa, you've made an application to extend your current leave to remain. I think for now, Eugene, I can comment on those points only. And if there's any questions, we can catch up on that.
Thank you so much, Taffi, Andrew, for sharing your perspective and pinpointing some of the current changes in terms of immigration laws and the rules and the application currently withstanding and things like that. And I'm sure there'll be some question later on, and probably there'll be more opportunity to answer and also exchange with the delegates and people on the line. I think Rachel is online. Probably she can take over, also introduce herself and take us through some of the things she's been engaged in. I know she's very active also on Windrush cases, which has been a hot topic, and they've been quite a very hot announcement in terms of the finding of the review of how the case were conducted and the things. Also illegal deportation and things like that. And I've noticed she's been active trying to stop some of the last minute deportation and cases like those ones. So Rachel, I don't know if you're on the line, please take the stage and take us through what you do and some of the things you see and how the situation are changing.
Hello there. Hi, I'm online. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm Rachel Okello. I'm a solicitor based in the Jury Quarter in Birmingham, and I specialise exclusively in immigration law. So I only do immigration law 24/7. And I particularly do immigration law as it involves the right to family life. So I started off my career as a family law solicitor. So I do particularly Article 8 claims and claims involving family life, and mostly highly complex immigration matters. In terms of what's been said so far, I think everything's been covered. I did come in a few minutes into when Taffi was speaking, because trying to get online, do a new way of business, as we're all trying to do. But I'm not sure if anybody mentioned, I'm not sure if anybody mentioned that the automatic, I think there was mentioned, but just a cut-off date at the moment which is the 31st of May, where the Home Office are extending, if people email into the Home Office, there's a date, the 31st of May. I suppose it's all very new, but they do say that they will extend visas until that date for people whose visas would ordinarily expire before or after that date, and they are stuck effectively in the UK due to coronavirus issues. It's primarily, I think, for people who have short-term visas, but I have got some clients who, as Andrew was saying, who cannot work and so need a fee waiver. Now, because they want to not have to pay the Home Office fee, so they can apply for a fee waiver. But the problem that they're having, which I'm anticipating, is that the decision for the fee waiver is not going to come back in time by the time their leave to remain actually expires. So the way that we do it is you apply for the fee waiver first, and if the Home Office are going to give you the fee waiver, they then give you a code. And instead of putting your credit card details in when you prepare your application, you then put the Home Office code into your application. And the problem is that because the Home Office has almost shut down due to the coronavirus issue, they're not being able to decide the fee waivers in time for when clients' visas expire. So I am saying to clients, even if they're on a long-term visa, they should still use that email address and let the Home Office know that they can't leave the UK. I suppose they wouldn't really leave the UK anyway because they're wanting to live here, but they can't anyway leave the UK because of the coronavirus issues. And therefore, they could still use that facility of emailing the Home Office to let them know that they are stuck in the UK. So that's available at the moment for anybody's visa that expired from the 24th of January to the 31st of May 2020. I think a lot of the other points have been covered, so I'm happy for people to ask questions.
Oh, thank you so much, Rachel, for that brief introduction and taking us through some of the key points probably has not been covered. I think to make it the discussion interactive, probably I'll open up to the delegate and people online if anybody has any question or has any burning issue they would like the speaker to discuss about or elaborate more, please let me know. But I think one of the questions I had myself is recently they announced automatic extension of visa for, I think for them, also changes in tier, just a minute. There've been changes in tier 2, tier 5, and also tier 4 visa application. A bit of relaxation for employees, especially if you're for recruiters and people like who came here from overseas to work here. I don't know if anybody can touch on this in terms of what are some of the relaxation that has been.
Yeah, there is, in terms, I think if you mean the Home Office are now allowing people to switch, what we call switch their visas, long-term visas from within the UK. So previously, if you had to leave the UK and then apply to re-enter, then they are saying at the moment that people can apply from within the UK instead of having to leave, because fundamentally, nobody can leave the UK anyway. And I'd also like to add, which the Home Office haven't added it, but people may wish to try, if you are married to a British citizen and you're thinking of applying for a spouse visa from within the UK, which the Home Office don't like at all, they want you to leave the UK. So if you're already in the UK and you want to apply for a spouse visa, you're supposed to leave the UK and re-enter. So I'm thinking, since the Home Office have now relaxed a bit the routes on the tier visa routes, they may, the rules on the tier visa route, they may also relax it for people who jump in now, a novel thing really, I suppose, but jump in now and make the application for a spouse visa from within the UK, and then you have to have special circumstances why you haven't left to make it from abroad. So you make the application and your special circumstance is, of course, the coronavirus and you can't leave. So I haven't done it yet because obviously we've only just started with this coronavirus issue, but it could be something that somebody might want to try. So they don't leave the country, they apply from within the UK.
Yeah. So for this point you mentioned that some of the automatic extension of visa until the end of May, what is the implication after May? Are they going to, for those one whose visa are due to expire, what is the implication? Let's say, because at the moment, even business, we don't know how in 3 months will look like, or 6 months. Are they going to extend it, or what are the options available?
If it's to me, I don't think the Home Office know, to be fair, at the moment. It's all up in the air. But primarily speaking, once you make your application in time, so you don't let your visa lapse, as long as you probably email the Home Office before your visa expires, then it will continue one way or another until you get a decision from the Home Office. And then I imagine that you would either leave the UK if you're able to do so, because the Home Office have said they're going to keep it under constant review. So whereas actually now they're saying the 31st of May, we don't know. They may decide to say the 30th of April and cut it short because it's changing every day. But as long as you apply in time on that email, then you should be able to extend your stay in the normal way afterwards.
Okay. So for those who are online, I don't know if anybody has a question to the speakers or. Hello? For those one listening, is anybody who has a question? We just want to open it up to the people listening. And
Hello.
hello.
Yes, mine is just an observation. For those who are not contributing, if you could just mute your mics. I know that these are the challenges of working from home, and there will be kids in the background, and our other half preparing dinner. So just mute your mics. That's all.
Okay. Let me try and mute it from here probably. So anybody who has any question, I'm trying to go through the posting to see if there's any. I see some people asking for your contacts. Of course, after they did this discussion, I'll collect the contact from I have the contact from the speakers, and if anybody who's interested, of course, I'll get the consent from them to make sure I'm allowed to share the contact before.
Eugene,
Yeah.
if there are no questions, maybe let me ask. I obviously working within the university, we have goodness knows what's going to happen between now and by September. I don't know how this is going to affect the international students. But for the international students that are already here, I know that previously the government had said that they would be introducing systems where they're allowing students to stay after their graduation and maybe work for a couple of years. Obviously that hadn't come through, or maybe it has, I'm not so sure. But for students whose visas were just about to expire, what kind of advice would you give them in light of what's happening? Because obviously they can't travel, and if they stay and overstay their visa, and some of them might have financial challenges in terms of extending your visa, might involve a lot of money, and obviously people are right now hunkered into their houses, they're paying rent, they have to eat, and they may not have the money to pay for the visa fees. They'd rather be home, but they cannot fly. Any advice for such individuals?
Yeah, if I can just jump in there. It was what I was saying just a bit earlier. People can contact the Home Office on a special email address, which is free, so they won't have to pay the fee. If their visa expired after the 24th of January 2020 up to the 31st of May 2020, then they can contact the Home Office. And I've got a link on my blog. My website is clarityvisas.co.uk. And then there's a link to the Home Office website there, and you'll see the actual email on the website. So anyone in that situation can click on the link, and you go straight to the Home Office email, and it tells you what details you need to give. It's a very simple process specifically for this issue, and there isn't going to be a fee attached to that. So that will work very well for students in that situation.
Thank you.
Perhaps can I just add to that? I think there was a question about people that are on tier 2 visas, maybe tier 5 visas as well, and what happens to them during this period. Now, obviously, the current situation is that if you are a sponsor, so say you're an employer and you've brought in an employee from outside the EU, you have certain duties that come with that responsibility. So you've got the duty of to monitor that employee to ensure that they comply with the conditions of their visa. So all that has been relaxed for now. So if you are a sponsor, those normal conditions, those normal responsibilities of ensuring that the employee is at work, working certain hours, or maybe they are a student, that they are at university attending classes and so on, all that's been relaxed. So again, that's very useful. Then there is also something that is related to that. You know, for tenants, there's something called right to rent. Again, for now, that's slightly relaxed. So the current position, or rather the legal position normally, is that if you are a non-EU immigrant, you need to demonstrate that you've got the right to rent, you know, so that's by way of your visa. And then that obviously extends to right to work if you are an employee. So all those for now are relaxed. Right to rent is relaxed. Right to work is relaxed. So in terms of what the employer needs to do, ordinarily they would have to make, you know, physical checks of your documents and so on. For now, that can be done digitally, you know, so by scan or by video and so on. So there are a number of areas where, you know, the rules have been relaxed to accommodate this unprecedented situation that we find ourselves in.
Oh. Thank you, Taffi, for clarifying some of those things. Anybody who has a question, I can on the line. Let me try and see those one on Facebook. Anything for further clarification or?
Yeah, hi guys. Just want to introduce myself quickly and take this opportunity. I saw Andrew's post on LinkedIn and I thought I'd jump on and introduce myself. I know a lot of businesses are going through such a tough time at the moment, especially in the current climate. No sales pitch. I just want you guys to know we're a bookkeeping company. If you've got any problems with your legal cashiers and you need some help, you just want to approach me, just give us a call. Yeah. Thank you. It was a pleasure to join today. We're here to help you guys out through this tough time.
Yeah. Thank you, and you are welcome. Thank you for joining us and introducing yourself. Anybody who has another question, let me go through the question we have here on the side. So one question that came, okay, go ahead.
Sorry, I was not planning to deep in and out on immigration things, because that's really usually not my area of interest or expertise. But we are now, most of the information you've shared is for people who are already here. How about people, especially our brothers and sisters who had plans to come here, maybe just to study perhaps, or to even work? And I know that there's been lots of changes from an immigration point of view, especially with the discussions happening around Brexit. But this thing has thrown a curved ball in the whole thing. So for people who haven't applied or were in the process of applying, especially I'm just thinking of our research students or even just normal other students who are thinking of coming here in September, and given the amount of work that the Home Office is probably having to deal with, and I don't see the situation with COVID abating until, 3 months down the line, 4 months, who knows how long this might take. Any thoughts and ideas? The email that you said people should engage, would that be an appropriate communication mechanism? Is the online system still working perhaps for you guys who are dealing with it on a routine basis? Any thoughts and ideas for those who are actually not here yet?
Okay, for those who are not yet here, applications, the online system is still working. You can make applications. We've been making applications, but the challenge is that the UKVI partners worldwide have closed their offices. So with these applications, after you've submitted your online application, you normally have to go in person to a visa submission center in wherever country you are and physically hand in some documents, including your passport, sometimes with your supporting evidence. But most, if not all of these centers are closed. So they're just saying until further notice. So we are in a situation whereby we're just having to wait and see what happens with this situation, which has locked down the whole world really. But online applications, they're still open to be made. I don't know if my colleagues Taffi or Racha wants to comment on that.
Yeah, maybe.
that-
Go on. Rachel?
No, go ahead.
Hello?
I'll come in after. I'll come in after.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right. I was going to say, I mean, obviously, I agree with that. Centers are closed. So whilst you can do the application online, it's the physical part of submitting documents, which is a problem. So ordinarily, you get a period within which you must do that appointment. You know, it's for purposes of doing your biometrics and then submitting documents, but that obviously will be extended. So that's not a problem. Once this whole situation passes, then appointments will resume. But I wanted to respond to something that you asked about what's going to happen in the new year or in the near future in terms of a new immigration system. So before COVID-19 broke, there were plans to introduce an entirely new immigration system. They call it an Australian type point system, which is a bit of an anomaly because we already have a point system of some sort. But the point is there is a new system coming or was supposed to come in January 2021. I don't think that we have it now. I think even without COVID, that was always very ambitious because the work involved is quite voluminous. There's a lot to do in terms of rejigging, you know, the entire fabric of the immigration system. With this, it means that timetable, I think, will be pushed down the line. A lot of students, I think, got excited about the possibility of something called the post-study visa, which has been talked about, and there's an undertaking to reintroduce it. It will come. We know that it's coming. It's just a question of when and who will it benefit, because there's the whole point about does it benefit people enrolling in this new academic year or people that will enroll after the system is introduced. So there are questions around that. But that's something to watch out for. But otherwise, one of the key features of the new immigration system will be a simplification of the language. Anyone who looks or who has had some experience with immigration law knows the complexity of the rules. Very, very complex. You look here, you know, in terms of sources of law, you look at the immigration rules, you look at, you know, acts of law, you look at, you know, policy guidance. So there's a lot to consider when you do a simple application. But what they want to do now is to simplify all of it, one, in terms of the language itself, but also in terms of, you know, codifying it into one, you know, coherent code. So that's something to look out for, hopefully in the new year.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
I'll add to that if I can. Actually, while we're talking about new things which are developing, there's the High Court judgment that we're expecting on the 3rd of April. And that is going to, because people who have residence cards may know that you don't have recourse to public funds, so you can't claim benefits. So that at the moment is going through the court. Because of COVID-19, the main decision had been stopped, but the interim decision, a temporary decision, is going to be made on the 3rd, which I think is Friday, so this Friday. So people who may be affected, who may need to claim benefits, who have residence cards but no recourse to public funds, should keep their eyes open for that change to see if they can claim benefits, maybe automatically. Otherwise, you can always apply to the Home Office to vary your leave so that you can claim benefits. However, with all this going on, that's going to take a long time. So the courts may be the best option.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you both very much. Sorry, Eugene, to interrupt, but I've been monitoring our Facebook feed, and I have one question. Someone is asking, Ahmed Abdullah was asking that for a person who's been granted a visa to visit the UK, but they're unable to travel due to COVID-19, can the visa be changed for extension without paying an additional fee? Can they, for instance, instead of 6 months, automatically give them more months? Do they have to pay extra fees? Any thoughts on that?
Hello. I don't think there will be additional fees. I think if you look at what's happening around all the other visa categories, it looks like the direction is to, grant extensions, grant concessions, grant leeway, just to be a bit more flexible, more than they would ordinarily. So I think you know that the usual position is that if you get a visa, you get a stamp that allows you to travel to the United Kingdom within a certain period of time. I think it's 30 days, if I recall. You've got to do it within that 30 days in order to then collect the actual visa. So the actual visa will be in the UK at a post office. That's where you go and get it. Now, at the moment, that's been extended to 60 days. So that's the guidance that we are getting. So quite clearly, I think that's an acknowledgement that this situation requires flexibility. I would assume, if there's someone holding a visa, if they haven't been able to travel because of travel disruptions, then automatically that gets deferred without the need of paying an additional fee. But obviously, ultimately, it will depend on when this whole thing passes. If it passes, say, 3 months down the line, it may then require perhaps specific email contact with the visa office to say, I got a visa 3 months ago, I couldn't travel. Can I now get confirmation that I can travel? But I would, bet at this point that there wouldn't be any additional fees.
Yeah, I think you got 3 minutes. There's 2 questions on the line. One, the recent announcement of healthcare professional visa extension. When are they likely to receive confirmation? And how far does he extend in? Is he anybody within healthcare professional, or is he specific? And the second one, there due to be an increase in fee for the healthcare fee for those applying for visa extension on the 6th of April. Is it still going ahead, or is it going to be suspended also?
Well, anybody whose visa is going to expire from now to the 31st of May can go online. I think I did see somebody put up the email address. I don't know where that went, but I saw it flash on the screen. And email the Home Office and tell them. In terms of the healthcare workers, the basic thing to know is that if you're staying in the United Kingdom, you need to tell the Home Office that you're still here. As far as I'm aware, the healthcare workers have 12 months and they're not going to have to pay the fee. And as far as I'm aware, if their visa is going to expire, for example, tomorrow, then they're going to need to take some action before that expires. However, there's likely to be a special dispensation, should we say, if the healthcare worker is fighting at the front line in the hospital and can't attend to their visa tomorrow, because they also have that provision given by the Home Secretary up to the 31st of May this year. So all those things can really come into that. So if you're still in the country and can't leave because of COVID-19, then you can email the Home Office. There's a few questions that they need on the email, so it's probably best to go to their website so that you know what the questions are, and then you can take it from there and have the time up until the 31st of May to regularize your status or benefit from anything that's on offer.
Okay, thank you, Rachel, for that clarification. It's 7 o'clock. Unfortunately, we've run out of time, so our webcast is only for 1 hour, just short and sweet. I'm sure you are inspired to hear some of the latest update on the migration. But however, I will speak to the speaker, and if they're happy for me to share their contact, anybody who's interested or who have any private question or need further clarification or one-to-one discussion, then they can follow up from at a later on. But thank you everyone for joining us, and thank you for the speaker for sharing and sparing your time and giving us an update on latest implication of coronavirus. I'm sure it's very fluid. Tomorrow we might hear another announcement. So it's just to keep an eye, continuously monitoring the situation day by day. To be honest, we don't know 30 days or 60 days how it will look like, but I'm sure we'll continue to host this kind of discussion to continue share update in terms of the latest announcement and the implication and how the communities and the individual can address some of their outstanding challenges and the situation and the cases. So thank you so much for joining us. I hope you find it useful, and we welcome feedback for future improvement, and have a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Eugene. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
Bye. Bye.